Hello everybody, welcome to Cabaret Secrets. Today I'm going to be talking to Kai Hoffman, a singer specialising in 40s, 50s dance music, and spends her spare time teaching people how to develop stage presence and stage craft. Kai Hoffman, welcome to Cabaret Secrets.
Hi Gary, how are you today?
I'm really great. I wanted for you to share with people what you've learned as a performer about chatting to people, because I've found through Cabaret Secrets that's the bit that people struggle with.
It is, and I think like any other aspect of performance, you can learn to be more confident on stage. You can learn to relax and chat to the audience and kind of make them feel more comfortable by you being comfortable on stage. And there's all different techniques to learning how to do that. I think it just depends on just reminding yourself that they're there to be entertained, so you can be on stage and chat to them just like any other person, because you're both just people. Yeah. It's like having a conversation with someone. You have to just kind of pretend you know them already, and then you can sort of break down that sort of fourth wall of the audience and the person on the stage, and that in turn makes them more interested in what you're singing and what you're talking about, because they're relaxed and they're going, oh yeah, Gary's just a guy, this is great, I love this.
Why do you think it sounds so easy, doesn't it, just chat like we're chatting now, but why is it that people find it, even confident people that are very good singers and good performers, why is it that people seem to find the chat so difficult?
I suppose the thing is that when you have a song, you have lyrics, you have a melody, you have things to hide behind. When you're playing an instrument, you've got the instrument to hide behind. When you're just chatting to people, there's nothing in between you and them except your own level of confidence in that.
I mean, you've mentioned confidence a couple of times.
Yeah.
Do you think that's it? It boils down to confidence, or is it more than that?
I think it's a combination of a lot of practice and being willing to take the risk, being willing to try something and see how the reaction goes. And if the reaction isn't what you're hoping for, you try something else. And then if that doesn't work, you try something else. It's coming at something from a bunch of different angles and finding out what helps for you to break down your own internal walls in terms of being comfortable on stage and relaxed with people. And you know, at the end of the day, not everyone's going to want to chat to the audience, but if it's something that you want to learn, it's certainly a skill to be learned, and there are sort of methods to learning how to do it.
Tell me. I mean, what do you do when somebody comes along and they've got a blank piece of paper? Where do you start?
Well,
literally, when you're looking at a blank piece of paper, and I need a little bit of chat for my, 40-minute show. Where do you start?
Well, I guess the first thing would be looking at what songs you're doing, and if there's any personal reference in the songs to your life or to a funny story that you know or remember, or in the lyrics themselves, if there's something in the lyrics that means something to you. I think people always enjoy knowing something personal. So
it's relating, it's relating the song to something personal. It's sharing a story of your own. It's making it. You want people to be as revealing and as personal with the audience as they're comfortable being, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. And it's that vulnerability that makes people love you. And it's that kind of, I don't have any walls up. I'm not trying to be anyone. This is just me, and this is why I'm singing this song. And that's a place to start. I mean, obviously there's, if you have a show that has a theme, you can talk about the theme. Sometimes people get up on stage and they talk about completely random things. As we mentioned Ian Shaw, I've seen him, get up and just talk about what he had for lunch or whatever.
When somebody gets up and talks about their lunch, my first thought is, well, I wouldn't want to pay and listen to someone talk about their lunch. But actually, there is the reason why it might work, listening to somebody talk about what they had for lunch and just sort of waffling on a little bit, though I wouldn't recommend it to anybody.
There is good waffle and there's bad waffle, definitely.
Yeah, and also, but if it's the plus side, why it might work is that it is just very real, isn't it? In fact, it's extremely personal. If it is just waffle that's not structured and, talking about the song that you just performed or your inspirations, it's actually taking the familiarity with the audience to another level, isn't it? It's the performer assuming that we're such good friends, they're such good friends with the audience, and that we've got to a level now where it's okay for me just to spend 2 minutes just having a little waffle about what I did today without there being any point, because I'm just having friendly banter.
Yeah, and I think some friendly banter is a good thing. Obviously, you don't want to sort of bore people.
We're both nervous about recommending people just to talk about their lunch now, aren't we? Because yes, I wouldn't recommend it as a starting point.
I mean, I guess the thing is, it's important to feel comfortable on stage, and there's ways to learn how to be more comfortable with the chatting side of it, because the chat, that banter, takes it from just being a musical show where people are sitting there listening to songs to an evening's entertainment. They're going on a journey with you, and they're learning something about you, about the world, maybe about their own experience through your eyes with the song. They're relating to you, and it's something that goes beyond just everyday words. It's a level of communication that you only get through music.
Well, and this is why you can have somebody who's actually not a great singer. Sometimes you can have somebody who's a really awful singer, has a terrible voice, but their chat, what goes on in between the songs, is so good that it's a fantastic show. I mean, a really sensational show. And the quality of the singing doesn't matter so much. Do you have to be careful you don't talk too much?
There's a definite limit to how much you want to chat in between songs, and you want to stay on topic. You don't want to waffle for so long that the audience starts to be like, you can see them starting to glaze over. That's always a bad sign. Yes. And I think it's important to keep your little tidbits of wit or knowledge, or little quips that you've learned from comedy quotes online, or whatever it is, or that you've written yourself, which would be better, obviously. Whatever it is you're saying, you want to keep it fairly brief and to the point so that you can move on to the next number, because at the end of the day, they are there to see a show. They're not there just to see you talk, unless you're a comedian, and that's a whole nother level.
Do you recommend people write an actual script?
I think it's good to give yourself an outline and then get away from it as soon as possible. Because if you stick to that outline, you can't react. If something happens with the audience, something changes, the vibe changes, you don't want to be stuck to your script. And that's why I'm loving this interview, because I've done interviews in the past where they've asked me a question, I've answered them, and they've ignored the response and just gone on to the next question, and it's like, you might as well not be in the same room.
And that, it is, as you mentioned at the beginning, I always think that talking to the audience, it is like a conversation. It happens to be, mostly it's one-sided, but actually there is an input from them, isn't there? We want to react from their reactions. It doesn't just want to be like we're talking at them. It wants to feel like, for everybody, like a conversation. Definitely.
And I think especially in the world of cabaret, that's possibly more accepted and more allowed than in any other genre. But having said that, I've seen a lot of fantastic jazz performances, or even, look at Dolly Parton on stage. She's like, I love all 2 billion of you who are watching me, or whatever. And they believe her.
People always said about Frank Sinatra that, or any great singer really, that they would make, even if you were seeing them in a big arena, that it felt like he was singing and performing and talking just to you, which that's a real gift, isn't it?
It is. It's a gift. It's magic, but it's also something that can be practiced and honed, and something that comes over time the more you do it.
Do you think everyone can do it?
I think it's a skill that can be learned like anything else. Some people are going to end up better at it in the long run than others, because there might be an element of talent involved as well.
What do you say to people that would say to you, oh, well, it's all right for you, you've got the gift of the gab, you're a talker, it's all right for you, it's easy, but I couldn't do that?
I would say that the first time I went up and did comparing, which is when you're standing on stage and you're hosting, you're not actually doing any singing or anything like that. You're just chatting to people and warming them up for someone else to come on stage and perform. The first time I did that, I was so scared I had 3 drinks before I got on stage. And it got easier and easier, because I realized over time and with practice, and having kind of been forced into going up there and doing it, that actually it's just another mystery that needs to be solved. Once you sort of learn some tricks, and maybe I started Googling, like, what are some funny things that I can say, or maybe there's some audience warm-up things I can do, or games, and there's a whole world out there which, with Google you can start to kind of put together your own little bit of banter, and then it becomes more and more yours as you use it.
And just because you're not doing it now doesn't mean to say you can't do it. Like you say, it's just
It's like
another
riding
skill.
a bicycle.
Right.
And it does...
You're not born, nobody's born with that innate skill of riding a bike. But you've got
No.
to spend time, you practice, and eventually it comes naturally.
You do, and I can't remember what I was watching. It was very recently. I saw a program where it was one of the TED Talks, I think, where they were saying, you know, that person who's an overnight success has been working at it for 20 years behind the scenes, or 10 years, and that's the key to anything, and doing any kind of skill well is there's a lot of work involved. There's a lot of skill and a lot of it's a lot of practice involved in that, and there's techniques to learn how to do that.
Well, great. And you spend your time, part of your time, helping people do this, so people can get in touch with you and you can sit down with them and help them develop their stage confidence and a script and help them structure a show, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I have performers who come to me and we do basically role-playing sessions where we're sort of learning a little bit about acting techniques, learning about some maybe tips on how to get your banter started so that you sort of, you know, give yourself some focus in terms of what you'd like to chat about or what you'd prefer not to chat about. If you want to have a persona on stage, developing that character, that kind of thing. And I teach from my studio in North London, so anyone who's interested, we'll leave the details up on the web.
They're going to be lining around the block now. So yeah, we'll put the contact details on the page. Thanks, Kai, for talking to us.
Pleasure.
Good luck.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you for listening to this Cabaret Secrets podcast. If you've got any comments or questions, please visit cabaretsecrets.com, where you'll also find details of the Cabaret Secrets book, an indispensable guide on how to create your own show, travel the world, and get paid to do what you love.